Here we are, chopping it up with Dave and Spacco.
At the Northmead Midnight Butcher Shop. Hey guys, if you like what you hear, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can receive updates on when new episodes drop.
Right, should I kick this off then? Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, gents. So we've just done about 15 minutes of breath work. Talk me through how you found that and how you feel now.
Well, I might start because I was
go for
kind of, that was like a really good meditation. I've done a couple of meditations, or I've done quite a few meditations. Not all of them are deep, but sometimes when I come out of a good one, it takes a little while to come back out of it. But it was very interesting. I feel completely oxygenated, which is probably not a good word to use for it, but I feel like I was completely full of oxygen, and my breathing is just so calm and relaxed. And afterwards, and it's interesting because it was, it's quite vigorous that the 2 minutes that we're breathing. It's quite vigorous. But then once we go down into that relaxed session, and you'll have to explain what all the ups and downs are, Rory, but we go back into relaxed where we recover. It was almost like I didn't need to breathe. It was like, oh no, I've got my one breath at the end. That's it, and I just reset. And I had the tingling it's at the extremities of my body. But far out, that was interesting. What about you, Dave?
After that first round, as I said, I get a bit lightheaded, and when I go get blood tests and stuff, I tend to sort of feel like I'm going to faint, so I need to lie down. So I thought, rather than sitting, I'm going to lie down. Because I do remember last time we did it, I did feel a bit tingly, and I'm just not sure, there's a bit of fear, you know what I mean? But doing it down there, I thought I probably could have just sat down and done it, but it was quite nice actually lying down and doing it. But after that first round, like towards the end of it, I just started smiling. I was like, felt like laughing. It was just, I don't know, I just couldn't stop smiling. I was like, fuck, this, didn't know what it was. It just came over me. It wasn't like I found anything funny, or it was just this joy that just come over me. Could have just been all that oxygen just fucking getting pumped into my brain, my body. And then, coming to the end of that first round, holding your breath, I'm thinking, all right, how long have I got to hold my breath for? Okay, I've got a big one coming. I can hold it. I can hold my breath longer than this. This is nothing, And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take a big breath in. And then the second one, I felt I was pushing myself quite hard. It's like training. Like you said, the more you put in, the more you get out. I'm pushing halfway through. I'm like, yeah, I can fucking do this. Keep going, mate. Keep going. Keep pushing. So it's actual. You got to work. You can't, just take relaxed breaths or anything like that. It's actual.
Yeah,
input.
I felt like I could have gone longer. You were counting us back in to take that next inhalation, and I was sort of feeling like, oh, whenever, like I'm okay. I actually felt like I didn't need to. I was like, oh, it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, you definitely could hold longer. I think for a number of reasons, and especially when I do these group sessions, I guide people out. When I do rounds, and just to go back a stage or a step for all the listeners, what we did was 2 minutes of active breathing. So fast inhale through the mouth with a relaxed passive exhale through the mouth. So fast in, passive out. 2 minutes on. We then did a breath hold on the exhale, and we did that 3 times. The intention here is to drive up the nervous system into a high stress state, to then down regulate it and put it into a low stress state, into a more calming state. And when you do that over 3 rounds, the end result is pretty relaxing, pretty calm, pretty clear. Even with what the gents are mentioning here, smiling, feeling clear, feeling relaxed. The heart rate. When you arrived, you mentioned that your heart rate was quite quick, and you had quite a busy mind. And then what we just did is 15 minutes of breath work. You said your heart rate is now slower. you feel more relaxed, you're breathing a lot slower, and your mind feels clear.
I'm absolutely in this moment now. When I pulled up and I jumped out, I was in 15 different, well, not 15, but I definitely had 4 different things going on in my head.
You look like you just punched a big fucking can of Monster or something.
I know, yeah.
Probably did.
But yeah, it's just, I guess, let's get into the podcast now, because our listeners will be thinking, what the hell is going on at the Northmead Midnight Butcher Shop?
Well, but I also, let me just quickly jump in if you don't mind. You know, I also love, Dave, what you're mentioning about smiling too, and from a very selfish / selfless place. You know, when I do these group sessions, whatever it is, whether it's athletes, whether it's corporates, whether it's individuals, you know, and I see people laughing, smiling. I think that's pretty fucking cool that you can do that through breathing. You know, the layered effect that the breath plus the music creates. And like you said, mate, you don't know why you're laughing. Well, some people do, some people don't. You know, but smiling is good. How good is laughing in life, right?
Yeah.
And you know, people will often cry when they do it. And I know crying for a lot of people, especially men, and we can say this, and you know, 3 men sitting in a room here talking about health. You know, often men don't want to cry and they hold it all in. But then when they cry in the session, and often, you know, gents will come back and chat to me at the end, and they say, man, you know, I've struggled to cry for weeks, for months, whatever it may be. There may be a specific reason or particular reason. And having that release and that relief just feels incredible, right? So it's great that we can use the breath as a tool to get to a certain place.
The last one that we did in the park, that the online one, but how long did that one go for?
That was 45 minutes. You know, that was we started with breath awareness, then moved into a bit of functional breathing, then we did 5 rounds of the faster breathing, call it, the upregulating breathing. Here we started with awareness, and then we got into 3 rounds. Yeah.
So I found that one, I got I think I told you afterwards, I did feel emotional, got a bit teary. I can't remember at what stage it was, but again, just like the laughing, it just came on there was no thought attached to it or anything. It was just tears.
But what the incredible thing there is, you know, that clearly comes from somewhere. You know, whether or not you're aware of where it came from. You know, there's obviously a subconscious thought underlying the action that happened, right? You know, the laughter, the tears, you know, there's a reason behind it, whether or not we know what that reason is.
I've found like the times when I don't not want to cry, like in emotional times. It's just like sometimes it's just like a pressure valve, it just gets the emotional level just gets to a point where it just has to release that pressure, or you know, or that particular situation is just so overwhelming emotional. Or I'm watching the Olympics. like it could be any of those things.
Yeah.
Watching my daughter or my son, you know, on the, you know, playing sport, you know, if they do something that just like makes you super proud, like it just hits you and like somehow triggers an instant emotional response. And I don't know how many times I've watched the kids play sport where if someone had talked to me at that very moment, I would have just burst into tears. You know what I mean? I'm just glad everyone's cheering and carrying on at that particular, or because I'm like up to the chin in emotion,
You're just holding it all in.
sort of swallow it down.
But it's great that you have that. You know, a lot of men don't even have that and just often feel numb. You know, and I've been doing this now for the past kind of 5 years, and the amount of men that will say to me that they just cannot physically cry or feel the sensation to cry. You know, you know, I for one definitely do not have that problem.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I could be watching a movie and just break down.
Yeah.
You know, like, not break down, but like, you know, a tear will start rolling. The missus is like, "Are you crying over there?" I'm like,
No,
a little bit.
I used to cry.
Just an itchy eye.
I used to cry watching Bambi, and now I get hungry.
Is that how you guys go hunting together?
We're hunting mates.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're it's almost like it's not an addiction, because James, who we had on the podcast, said that addiction's, you know, unhealthy. It's commitment.
I like the reframing as well. That's a nice reframing tool. It's not an addiction, it's a commitment.
We're committed to hunting and gathering our own food.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, you know, it's an interesting one with addiction. You know, yeah, I think it has negative connotations, but I think you can use an addiction in a positive way. I know for one, I have to look after my own mental and physical health. I have to fill my cup up first, and I feel I'm addicted to that.
Yeah.
If it got to an unhealthy place where all my buckets were low, but then my health was high, and I wasn't being social, I had no social engagement. My business was plummeting because I wasn't doing anything because all I did was look after my own health. Yeah, that'd be a negative consequence. But I think being addicted to positive things, I don't see the harm in that, right?
Yeah, no. Well, I'd agree with that. Definitely. Actually, it wasn't addiction. What was it? It was obsession.
Yeah.
That's
Obsession.
what it was. Which, from your point, exactly the same thing. If you were totally obsessed with just looking after yourself, and Rory was never in front of his computer booking some work appointments because he was always in the park doing breath work. Then other parts of your life are going to suffer. So yeah, it's that obsession. Obsession was the word. So James will be impressed we learnt something.
I suppose as long like in your field, like what you're doing, the breath work, like you're helping people. So, it's an obsession for you, but you're actually giving. It's not a selfish thing, whereas a lot of addictions are, when they're called addictions, obsessions, they're pretty much just for you, nobody else, you know what I mean? Like you're just doing it for you to feel.
Well, I think addiction has that negative connotation attached to it.
But I think, to kind of go back, I think most severe addictions, and I'd be interested to know what you will think of this, are negative. Whether it's
Yep.
alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex, whether it's gambling.
Yeah.
If you use them too often, too much, then the consequence is negative, right?
Yeah, I think because I think with addiction comes total lack of control.
Yep.
Because that whatever that thing is you're addicted to must be fed against all other, at the cost of anything else. It has to be done. So
Total self-centeredness. It's all about you, nobody else.
and even feeding that addiction at the cost of yourself in some ways. Like if it's gambling, you might have no money, but I need to get some money because I've got to feed this gambling. So yeah, I know stealing's bad, but I'm going to steal this thing to get some money to go and do this thing.
Or
that
I
I'm
know I
addicted
can
to.
lose the house, or can't buy groceries.
Yep. Yep.
How's that going to affect everyone around me?
Yeah. So they're not even self-preservation's not even part of some of those. Once their addiction's that bad.
Like I do think I'm definitely obsessed with what I do, but I would hope that it's a healthy obsession. To be able to, and I've said for quite a while, I want to be able to help everyone and anyone in the world because I've seen firsthand how important and how valuable breathwork can be personally, but also with the clients and the patients that I work with. Seeing how much of a difference it can impact people's lives. So maybe I'm obsessed with growing it, but hopefully that comes across in a positive way rather than a negative way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we better introduce our guest because if there's
we can always just do the introduction
Yeah.
at any point and then just chuck it in.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all right. We could just continue with the flow.
Just don't forget to do it.
No, we won't forget to do it.
Rory, we've got a super bad habit.
Let's just do it now. Just do it
All
now.
right.
Let's
do
just
it
do it now. We've got a bad habit of not taking the photo at the end, and twice now. So we've committed before I came here today that we were definitely going to do that first thing.
And we've already
Haven't done it.
Don't worry, I'll remind.
Yeah,
I'll remind. I'm quite good at remembering these things too.
putting a note in his phone straight away.
So we got Rory here, Rory Warnock. Rory's an industry-leading performance and wellness coach, ultra-marathon runner and keynote speaker. He specialises in breathwork and nervous system regulation to improve mental health, physical and optimise well-being and performance. He works with businesses, teams and individuals in Australia, New Zealand, the UK and the US and Singapore. Rory is also head of wellness at the Singulum. Singulum Health and Neurological Singulum Health and Neurological Health Clinic, where he works closely with the in-house psychologists and psychiatrists. Alongside being a coach, Rory works as a partner and ambassador for a number of health, fitness and wellbeing brands, including Lululemon, Apple, Techno Gym, Arepa, Nuzist and Pure Sport. Within the corporate space, Rory assists businesses who are looking to support employee mental health through breathwork sessions and companies who value upskilling their team through breathwork seminars. Welcome, Rory.
Welcome to the Northmead Midnight Butcher Shop.
Thanks for having me, gents. Looking forward to this chit chat.
Thanks, mate. Oh, as I said when I rolled up here and dived out the side of the car and ran up to you like a big fan guy, I've been super looking forward to this breathwork discussion, but also the session that we did beforehand. But I guess for people who've never heard of breathwork, Rory, what is breathwork?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. So what is breathwork? Well, you can think of breathwork as conscious breathing, or breathing in a specific way to create a desired outcome. So for example, we just did a 15-minute breathwork session, and the outcome, the desired outcome, and the aim and the intention was to help you feel more relaxed, more clear, and a little bit more balanced for the day ahead. Whether you want to improve your athletic performance, there's breathing techniques for that. Whether you want to upregulate your nervous system to bring more energy and alertness, there's some breathing techniques for that. Whether you want to downregulate your nervous system to feel more clear, more calm, more relaxed, there's breathing techniques for that. You can also think of breathwork as an umbrella term. So very similar to, running, for example. You could say, well, what kind of running do you do, Rory? Well, I could do road running, I could do trail running, I could do marathons, could do ultra marathons, could do fartlek, could do intervals, could do 5K, whatever. Think of breathwork as that umbrella where you could do Wim Hof, you could do holotropic, you could do rebirth, you could do Kriya, you could do upregulating, you could do downregulating. There's a load of different breathing techniques that you can utilize. So focus on breathwork as the umbrella term to various techniques.
What would you call your technique?
I utilize various techniques for various intentions. So when I work with athletes, I work with Sydney Swans, I work with surfers, fighters. I understand what their intention is. So, for example, often it's to enhance performance, speed up recovery, and to improve mental health. Those three pillars, call it. We'll use breath awareness. We'll use functional breathing to improve lung volume, diaphragm function, increase oxygen delivery into the working tissues, improve your CO2 tolerance so you can breathe less, for example, less breath per minute for more oxygen delivery. We'll also do the faster breathing like I did with you gents, just to help a bit of clarity in the mind. As professional athletes as well, they often have a busy mind because there's a lot of anxiety, stress, there's a lot going on. But equally, when I work with corporates, it's usually to downregulate. Again, in a fast-paced, hectic, chaotic environment, often they just want to feel more relaxed. So yeah, I read the science, I read the literature, I stay up to date with what is currently happening. And I utilize a variety of techniques.
How'd you get started? What I was reading a bit on your website. You were going through a bit of a stressful period in your life, and is that what triggered you to go down this path? And
yeah, massively, mate. I think you don't just fall into the breathwork space for the sake of it, right? It's I left university and moved into the consumer goods space, worked in healthy snacks as an account manager, P&Ls, cash flows, budget sheets, all the fun stuff. Then I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety at the age of 22. From the outside world, one may have thought I had everything I wanted. I had a salary at the time, a stable income, I had a roof over my head, I had a great partner, great friends, great family. But internally, I was just a mess. I couldn't understand what was happening. At the time I called it scrambled egg head, where I just thought someone had a whisk and was just scrambling my head, just confusion. I was crying myself to sleep most nights as well. So the doctor gave me the little white pill, put me on antidepressants, and a pat in the back, and off you go.
Was that pretty easy to get yourself some pills and get out of the doctor's surgery?
It was, yes.
No follow up. Was there any sort of?
There was a little bit of follow up, but I think that was a bit of a turning point for me to understand. I wasn't really aware of what anxiety and depression was when I was growing up, and then bang, there you go. Here's your prescription to SSRIs, to boost your serotonin, and we briefly spoke about it earlier too, where I'm much more passionate about changing behavior, lifestyle, habits to try and change your life, right? So I went along to a breathwork session. I'd never heard of breathwork, and within that 1 hour, it just changed the whole direction of my life. I started practicing breathwork 3 or 4 times a week, going along to sessions in London. When I moved to Australia in 2019, I just made this my purpose, my passion, my mission to try and help other people feel as good as it made me feel. You know, almost a selfish but selfless act where if I thought, if it can make me feel that good, hopefully I can help other people feel as good as it made me feel.
How'd you find the breathwork? Did you just get an idea, or someone recommended it to you? Or
Yeah, I was recommended to go along to this session. I'd never heard of it. You know, I thought it sounded a bit woo woo for me. I thought breathwork, what the fuck is that? I'm going to breathe in a certain way, and
That's what most of our listeners are thinking right now. Like, they're getting an education.
Yeah.
But most of the Northmead Midnight Butcher Shop people be thinking, what is it? You
oh
know,
mate,
what-
like, and
what
that
is
was
breathwork. I've never heard of it. Like
And that
most of the people I know who listen to this would be thinking, I've never heard of breathwork.
and that was me. You know, I was like, someone's going to tell me to breathe in a specific way, and it's going to change the way my brain operates. I was like, sounds ridiculous, but what's there to lose? Like, I may as well go along for this hour session, see how I feel, and if I enjoy it, cool. I've done something positive in my life. If I don't enjoy it, I've tried something. You know, it's an hour out of my day, out of my week, out of my month, whatever. And you know, thank fuck I went along to the session because it just changed everything.
Yeah, wow. It was breathwork the first thing you tried after the little white pill, or did you try a multitude of different things to get your head straight before?
Yeah, no, great question. I tried to meditate, but equally telling someone with anxiety to sit with their thoughts is one of the most paradoxical things that you can do.
Yeah.
I loved the connection of breath and movement that came with yoga. You know, I still practice yoga occasionally, and from there, I started to really understand that I was interested in the breath. And then that's when someone said, well, why don't you go to this breathwork session? I was like, well, I don't know what breathwork is. You know, I got into a lot of personal development, you know, Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, you know, these sort of coaches. And I find that of interest too. And I knew Tony Robbins had a breathwork coach as well, Dan Brule. So I thought, well, if he's doing it, maybe it's good enough for me as well.
I found, the difference between when I do a meditation, it might take me what feels like, because I don't know, because I'm not watching the time, but it might take like 10 minutes for the mind to calm down. Whereas when we did this breathwork session before the start of the podcast, you had to think about the breathing routine to try and get that wave going through your body. So straight away, like even because I came in with a busy mind, straight away I couldn't think about anything other than just doing this and then just listening to your guiding.
Intensity of it.
That's right.
You just have to be so focused, and that's all you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Whereas with meditation, your mind can drift a little bit, which is okay in the meditation as well. It's just a totally different type of.
Well, it's a completely different type of practice. And to my knowledge, you know, meditation is great for things like focus and attention. You know, breathwork is great for things like relaxation and calm and clarity. You know, exactly as you mentioned there, when you have your attention purely on the breath, or if you're doing seconds, maybe 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're in that moment.
Yeah.
And that moment's pretty good, right? You know, and then when you combine it with fun music, you know, it just creates a whole experience, and that experience creates the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that music as it was changing and going with the breathing definitely added to the experience.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, because I think over 5 years or 6 years of practicing, I noticed that a lot of people would use shamanic style of music, so drums or chimes, you know, and I'm not against it, but it just didn't relate with me, or I didn't connect with it. So I thought, well, why don't we add a more modern twist to it? You know, play more modern music, you know, music they play at Burning Man or music festivals to get you breathing fast, to really upregulate.
Yep.
Then play more calming music like Hans Zimmer or Max Richter during the calming times. You know, use music and breath to take you to various places emotionally, mentally, physically.
And I felt that as you were guiding as well, everything you were saying, like I was connecting with straight away, like how the body was feeling, how the breaths were going. I was like, yeah, that's actually happening in my body, you know. And it was nice to have that guide there, just to know that okay, things are going right, and I'm doing this thing correctly. You know what I mean? And
I think I appreciate that as well. And I think I've always coached, guide, hosted, facilitated, whatever you want to call it, from experience. You know, and I do this every single day. So I feel the feelings, I feel the emotion, I feel the sensation, I feel where it vibrates, I feel where it tingles. So it's always about reassuring you that the feelings that you feel and maybe the sensations, that it's safe. You know, it's natural. You know, you're doing it properly, you're doing it correct. Because often when you do something like this, and it's a deeper, more intense practice, for no better word, there's a bit of fear, a bit of threat, thinking, is this normal? Is this natural? Should this be happening?
Am I doing it right?
Am I doing it right?
Yep.
And this is again why, whilst we were doing the session, Jen, it's where I said, two things I want you to focus on: breathing deep and stay in control. That is it. It's not rocket science. In, out, control it.
Yeah. No, it was great. And I was just amazed that for what was a 10-minute session, when I came out of it, I felt like I had all of the same. I was very calm, but I felt like I had all the same benefits of a deep meditation that I normally would do for 20 or 30 minutes.
I think, and I appreciate you saying that as well. And I think the barriers to entry with breath work are so minimal. It's an active practice, whereas meditation is passive.
Yeah.
So you're actively using the breath to directly tap into your physiology, your psychology, the brain and body to take you to a certain place. Whereas meditation, it can be a lot more challenging. That can take you days, weeks, even months to get you to that place. You and I can do that together within 10 minutes.
Yeah. What would you say? I think one of the barriers to this type of what do you even call this? Like it's a type of training in a way, but the barriers to this is kind of like you feel a bit silly. Like if I was just sitting in the lounge room, and I'm not trying to make light of it in any way. I'm just saying, like even with meditation, sometimes I think, should I duck off, tell the family I'm just doing it, and they don't really care. But I don't know. It's in my head. I'm just going to go and sit in the room and meditate for 20 minutes, and you think, I should be, sweeping the floor, folding up the clothes. I should be doing these other things. These things they have such a profound benefit. But like, is that just we've just conditioned ourselves to think that we shouldn't be wasting time sitting on the lounge, like doing these deep breaths. I don't know. Am I on the wrong track? I'm just saying. Well, the barrier for me,
I know what you're saying.
is like, I'll just be in the bedroom just doing this breath work. It helps me out. But I don't know.
But if you're going to be more constructive, more productive afterwards, in a better headspace, then you're actually, rather than going out wasting your time fiddling on something else and then coming back in grumpy and frustrated, kicking it off. I find when I do stuff like this, just like when you go for a run or something, you come back and you just feel, fuck, you can take on the world now.
Oh yeah.
And I do think it's, filling your cup before you can help provide for others.
Yeah.
How can you expect to show up as your best version?
Yeah.
The human that you want to be, if you're not looking after yourself. Again, I've said this multiple times and I feel and I sound like a broken record, but the most selfless but selfish act, or vice versa, the most selfish but selfless act is looking after yourself. Doing your breathwork, doing your meditation, going for your runs, doing your strength training, doing your BJJ, going shooting, going hunting, whatever it is that fills your cup up, so then you can be your best version. If you give everything to other people, you're going to be depleted.
That's what so many of us do, eh? I just thought of this. There's so many things in life like that. Like you're on a plane, they're going through put your seatbelt on. If the oxygen mask comes down, put yours on first, because if you pass out, you can't help anyone else. Right? Don't put yours on first before you put the kids on and put the guy beside you, nanas and everyone else's. There's so many times where that's obvious,
But I think people forget it. And for the life that I live personally, I will make sure I do breathwork every day. I try to do my sauna and ice bath most days. I try to do some kind of movement, whether that's stretching, whether that's lifting, whether that's yoga, every single day. And it sounds like a lot, but breathwork could be 5 minutes here and there. It's not. I don't have to lie down and do an hour every single day. I don't do that. I don't do an hour of breathwork every single day. I'm a human. I have a busy life too. So I try and do some kind of breathwork, conscious breathing, some sort of movement, whether it's just stretching in front of the TV in the evening or going to the gym and stretch. And I try to, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, try and do some sort of, try and do some sort of sauna and ice bath. Because I know when I do these things, these practices, modalities, whatever you want to call them, I just feel so much better in my own head. And the better I feel in my own head, the better I can perform to people around me. You guys having this conversation, my clients, my patients, my friends, my family, the people that actually matter. And I know what it feels like to not be able to show up as my best version, as my best self, and that feels uncomfortable. And if I'm out of whack or out of balance, it feels shit.
So, Rory, how did humans get to a point where when we're breathing so inefficiently? And obviously, the shallow breathing. What are we? What are a lot of us doing now? How do we get to that point? And then, what's the best way out of it?
Yeah, great 3 points there. So I think what a lot of us are doing these days is dysfunctional breathing. I mean, the opposite of functional breathing. So dysfunctional breathing is through the mouth, short, shallow, upper chest, and loud. For example, even if you're sitting down doing some work at the laptop or watching TV, your breath may sound like this. Even erratic as well. So maybe it's 2 breaths and then 1 breath and 2 breaths. Maybe you're holding your breath. That's dysfunctional breathing. What we want to try and implement day to day is functional breathing. So breathing through the nose, light, slow, deep, and quiet. So you should never hear yourself or the people beside you breathing. That's functional. What has created us as a nation, call it, or a species, humans? We seem to be breathing in this dysfunctional way because of stress. The modern world, it's too fast. We don't really take time or moments to slow down. So we're always in that sympathetic state, that high arousal, high fight or flight. If you're in that sympathetic state, your respiration rate increases, your breathing rate increases, and it just becomes short and shallow and dysfunctional. So there's a lot of speculation around that, but what I believe has created that suboptimal breath is is predominantly down to stress and the modern world that we live in. Rushing to work, rushing home from work, rushing to the gym, rushing to pick up the kids. It's always just 100 miles an hour. But if you can take your time to take a few breaths consciously and just slow everything down, it'll just reset that nervous system. So I think that answers your points.
I think so. Yes.
I think that conscious breathing, because like you're doing all that stressful breathing is just happen naturally as you live in your day. So we're not actually sitting here thinking about our breathing. It's just happening on its own. So would you suggest doing like a breathing practice every morning just to get that pattern going?
Yeah, great question. So, James Clear has a book, Atomic Habits, which I think is a fantastic book. And he speaks about habit stacking. So stack a habit on top of another habit. So we do our teeth twice a day, morning and night. Stack breath work onto doing your teeth. Before or after, I don't care. So you do your teeth, then you do 5 minutes of slow and deep breathing, which is functional breathing. Through neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to rewire due to its environment, you can train and practice to breathe in a more optimal way. So, for example, if you wake up in the morning, bed for a lot of people is a place of relaxation, sex, whatever it may be. For me, it's a place of anxiety. All I want to do is get to bed as quick as I can. And then as soon as my alarm goes up at 6 a.m., I'm in the shower at 6 a.m. There's no hanging about. So for me, it's just how can I downregulate as quick as I can to drift off to sleep, have a good quality of sleep. And then when I do my teeth in the morning, for example, you can then sit in your bed, do your teeth, downregulate, use a bit of slow, deep breathing, and then put your mind, body, nervous system into a more clear place for the day ahead.
So I just want to know, have you always been in and out of bed like that, or no sleep-ins? Or
and really anxious about sex.
Yeah, hopefully there's no, I'm a single man, so hopefully there's no nice ladies listening to this thinking, he sounds like a nightmare.
Mate, you've got no idea the size of the single hot ladies who listen to the
I was going to
Midnight
say,
Butcher Shop.
two men
it's
like
one
you.
of our biggest segments.
No, I've actually, I know it's a joking question, but, it's an anxious thing, right? And I never used to be anxious, but I think my anxiety comes from a lot of different places, but I hold on to a fear of not being good enough. A fear of not being good enough, lacking self-esteem, a fear of not being enough, not doing enough. And I think, that the anxiety drives that for better or for worse. I think from a confident place, hopefully not an arrogant place, I feel like I've done some pretty great things here to support a lot of people in Australia. And a lot of that is driven by my fear of not helping enough people. So, for better or for worse, right? I have learned to regulate it and manage it. I do all the things that I can do to support myself. But I do feel the anxiety often does drive work or progress, if that makes sense.
So you get up in the morning and your first thought is, I've got to do stuff. I haven't got enough time. I've got to get in. So it's not that you don't want to sleep in. So would you have a sleep in if you could, or?
Oh, mate, I love to just lie in bed and chill.
Okay.
I love to lie in bed and chill. I do occasionally, of course.
Yeah.
I definitely do occasionally. But even the whole relaxing aspect, I struggle to relax. My deliberate rest would be things like a sauna, or me lying down doing some breath work.
So you're resting, but also getting. You're stacking the.
Yeah, I'm stacking habits. It's kind of deliberate doing something.
Yeah.
But I tried to chill with a friend on Friday night, and I just constantly felt like I should have been doing something. Just doing emails or trying to create something. So it's a work in progress.
Is it something that you want to change, or what do you want to do with that? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's, we spoke about it earlier, right? About balance,
Yeah.
the balance of life and filling up certain buckets. Like, I'm aware to have sustained high performance as a human cognitively, but also physically. I want to be the best business person I am to all the people that I can support, but also the best athlete. And to do this, I have to be able to rest, have adequate stress and adequate rest. And if I don't rest enough, then you just burn out and you bonk. So yes, I want to improve it, and I'd like to become more able at slowing down and relaxing. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a. You get a lot of satisfaction out of creating things, and whatever that looks like.
especially when you're in a flow and it's just happening and it's going day to day. Like you came here 2019, and I think I met you around 2020 or something, and it just feels like you've just been moving, growing, and it's just been flowing really well for you. So sorry to cut you off, mate.
No, that's all right. I mean, that's probably what we're here to do as humans, is to grow and evolve and learn and create and do all those things. So yeah, so I think sitting still, I'm a bit the same. I don't enjoy sleeping in, and the only times that I sleep in is when I'm physically, like, I've been really. I normally don't do going to bed properly. Like, I was thinking straight away after doing this breath work that this would be something that would suit me going to bed, because I go to bed with a busy head, then don't sleep properly, then wake up a number of times during the night, and I very rarely wake up rested. So sometimes I'll wake up, like this morning, I didn't know, I was like delusional. I didn't know where I was, what was going on. The alarm went off at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Was your mouth taped shut, or?
Yeah, we've been taped shut earlier in the night. Yeah, but yeah, I woke up because had I been relaxed and then taped my mouth, it might have been a different story. But because I went to bed with thinking about lots of things.
But that's also, and sorry to jump in,
go for it.
where if we go to bed with busy minds, how do we expect to have a good quality of sleep and to be in a well-rested state to enjoy sleep, right?
I don't know how my wife does it. Like, we've been having the same discussions and things, and she'll be asleep in like 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'll
me.
be like,
And you're my wife. You're like that. She's fucking up. I hear her downstairs walking around doing things.
But it's also, it's and again, to quickly jump in with what I do, where I go to bed with a busy mind. I feel anxious. I'll not all the time, but I'll often put mouth tape on, eye mask on, whatever it is, and I'll do my 4-6 breathing. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. By lengthening the exhale, helps move more into a relaxed, calming, parasympathetic state. Again, like we mentioned, I'm not thinking about the past, the things that maybe I should have done or shouldn't have done that day. I'm not thinking about the future, the things that I need to do tomorrow, the next day. I'm in that moment. Then when you're in that moment, the body and the brain has ability to switch off and go into more restful sleep. And again, it's not always about your length of sleep. It's often about the quality of sleep, right? And how can you improve the quality of sleep by quieting the mind and quieting the nervous system just to drift off?
yeah. Yeah, well, I definitely need to look at the breath work, different options of different types of breath work to suit that, because that would immensely help me in life, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, I'm creating some tracks with a DJ and producer, Stu Turner from Setmo, Sydney-based DJ, and they'll all be available on Spotify just free for people to switch on and use. You know, I feel wellness is often looked at as a luxury these days, and you have to be in a certain place or have a certain amount of money to be able to do it. And I've always wanted everyone to have the ability to practice breathwork wherever they are and whenever they are. So, you know, we're creating 10 tracks. They'll be on Spotify, and some will be great for sleep. So when they're available, I'll send them to you, and you can just plug in and listen to them and do it.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, I'll sign me up for that.
Do you work with different like frequencies and stuff, or
Different frequencies and just different sounds. You know, the volume one is a lot more about more drones and more atmospheric. Volume 2 is a lot more fast paced. But he's created all the sounds himself in the studio, so it's really cool.
Wow.
You know, my love for the augmented effect that breath and sound has. You know, evidence-based breathwork plus the science of sound. You know, and we've managed to kind of create this, and I'm hopefully launching it very soon.
Is that unique? You sort of the first breathwork teacher to go in that direction?
No, there's quite a few. There's definitely quite a few. There's some
Damn it! I thought the North Mead Midnight Butcher Shop had an exclusive.
No, I wish I wish it was all me, but there's not many that focus on music like I focus on music. You know, I've grown up with music. I love a variety of music, from anything from rock to orchestra to techno, and I love where sound can take emotion.
Yeah, definitely.
So I try to use that in breathwork sessions. So no, it's I wish it was only me, but there's other people doing it as well.
Yeah. Well, it sounds exciting, and I'm definitely we'll promote it once you've got it released. We'll certainly promote it through here too, because it's
Thank you.
It's very
have
exciting.
you used sound and that through a lot of different meditations and
Well, sound healing, right?
Yeah,
you know, people go to sound healing events or sessions or classes where you literally just lie down and listen to the sounds. So that definitely inspired me to put excuse me. That definitely inspired me, you know, a couple of years ago to put much more emphasis and focus on the sound that's actually played, you know, rather than just playing a bongo drum and putting some, you know, twinkly, what they called. I can't even think what they're called. Yeah, so sound is very important. Chimes, thank you. Chimes, twinklies.
I'm a big fan of the pan flute myself. No, that's really cool. I mean, I think everyone would be able to relate to a sound that has some sort of effect on them, even if you're not sort of too in touch with your emotional side. Like, you know, you've only got to go next to a speaker that's reverberating. You can feel it through your body, or you know.
The vibrations are amazing, aren't they? And I think you're so right. Depending on what your style or genre of music or sound is, you know, it'll create a thought and a feeling.
Definitely.
You know, that's what is so beautiful about music. And music has been around for so long, right? And it brings people to get together. It brings connection. It brings community. And I just think it's a huge part of what we love as humans.
Yeah. Well, I'm always amazed. Have you guys ever had that feeling but you hear a song and it just triggers this memory from way back, you know, or you know, well, I'm probably a bit older than you guys, but I'm talking like songs that you take you back to when you're 15, like just transports you straight back there, right?
like
instantly.
Adele or something.
Adele was only 15. Mate, I would have been 15 when Adele was born.
Well, I have that with there's a Scottish band, Texas, you know, which reminds me of growing up when I was a child, because that's what my mum used to always listen to.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she would listen to that in the car or listen to it in the house, you know, and that is the nostalgic feeling where it reminds me of home.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me of my mum.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool that sounds and music can do that too, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we mentioned before, Dave dropped me in about having my mouth taped earlier on. Hopefully people were thinking, what the hell? But yeah, so do you want to talk about taping of the mouth and maybe how that could affect snoring and sleep, and you know, and what it is? You know, you can explain it.
Yeah, like I think people often think that we're crazy when I recommend mouth taping.
Oh,
you know, I've ran a half marathon.
Kate Spackman 100% thinks I'm crackers. was diving over me trying to hold my arms down to video me the other night when I was doing it.
Probably look like, what's his name out of Silence of the Lambs?
Literally. Well, it's super simple. You know, if you are breathing in a functional, optimal way for 16 hours a day during wakefulness, and the three of us right now can control, regulate, and how we breathe, through the nose, breathing slower, breathing deeper. That's fantastic. But then as soon as you go to bed, for example, for 8 hours, 1/3 of your day, as soon as you fall asleep, if your mouth then opens and you start snoring, all that good work that you've done for 16 hours goes to complete shit for the 8 hours. So the easiest way to make sure that you don't use your mouth to breathe is just tape your mouth. You cannot, when you're in a different level or state of consciousness when you're asleep, you can't control how you breathe, right? Your body is designed to survive, not designed to be happy. So you will always breathe. So I always recommend a bit of mouth tape over your mouth, funnily enough. It doesn't have to be a huge big bit of gaffer tape or duct tape.
Oh, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I know.
I've been going from cheekbone to cheekbone.
Just a small bit, I use 3M tape. I recommend 3M tape. Some people said it hurts their lips, so there are some specific brands that actually do it. I have zero affiliation with these companies. Myotape is one, Somnifix is other. So yeah, if anyone is interested in using these tapes and trying to practice mouth taping so that you nasal breathe when you sleep, check them out. It is incredibly important to nasal breathe. The nose will warm the air, filter the air, humidify the air. Essentially, it's the body's first line of defense against any airborne pathogens. You'll be healthier. You'll become less ill if you use your nose to breathe. Your nose is also smaller than your big mouth. I've got a big nose, so I'm glad you can't see me on screen here. Your nose is naturally smaller, your wee nostrils, so it slows the breath down. By slowing the breath down, it'll bring more oxygen into working tissues, less breath per minute for more oxygen delivery. It's called the Bohr effect, or the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. It's found out way back in 1904, so this science has been around for ages, but we just don't give it the time and attention that it kind of needs and deserves. You pick up an incredible gas, nasal nitric oxide, that pulls in the nasal cavity, works as a vasodilator, essentially helping to open up the blood vessels rather than vasoconstriction. With vasodilation, it helps distribute that oxygen to blood around the body and makes oxygen more readily available to the tissues. So hopefully you're understanding that there's a lot more to nasal breathing than mouth breathing. I've recommended nasal breathing and mouth tape to many friends, family, clients, patients, and people have come back and said it's changed their life. From mouth breathing to simply nasal breathing, waking up in the morning, having more energy, having deeper sleep, feeling more relaxed when you wake up, less dry mouth. The list goes on.
And not only that, like Kate thinks it's kind of sexy too.
Because you're not talking.
Now you're letting all the listeners know what you're into in the bedroom.
Yeah.
What about, I was watching something the other day and they were talking about the nose and breathing through the nose. You got the 3 canals through the nose. It's like there's a lower one, middle one, and a higher one. And he was putting something in there. It was on one of the social media things, and he's like, just be aware and just think about when you're breathing to breathe through the lower one. Do you know much about that? Or
Mate, if I'm honest, I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah.
The nasal canals. How can you direct air into a specific canal in your nose, though?
just think, I don't know, maybe just...
Yeah.
I'll do some research after this.
Yeah, let
this
me know what you
chit-chat.
think. I didn't look much into it. I thought it was
just been served some shite on social media. I will piss myself.
Just do what Big Pharma do, mate, when they're in front of the Senate committee and just take that on notice.
Yeah. I'll do some research though. I'll write it down, so I'll have a little look when when I have some time after this chit chat.
Yeah. Oh. So are there, like, has mainstream, and again, like, if you can't make money out of it, most of the mainstream big medical, they're not probably that keen to invest any time and money in it. But has there been any sort of mainstream studies or any sort of medical studies on breathing or on breath work? Or
Oh mate, the research is endless. There's a huge amount of evidence out there. All the practices and the techniques, the tools that I utilize are all evidence based. So, people often ask me, well, who have you trained with, or who's your teacher? I just read science. I read literature. My degree is in strength and conditioning science, so I learned that over 3 years at uni. I understand the techniques that work, and then this is what I practice with my patients and clients that I work with in various fields. There's a great paper, How Breath Control Can Change Your Life. A systematic review. I think it looked at about 25 different papers, and within those 25 papers, 18 of the papers use slower exhale, so like a 4 second in with a 6 second out. So a long, slower exhale to help move more into parasympathetic. So that's why I use that technique. You know, if it's good enough for 18 papers in this 2019 systematic review, it's good enough for people like you and I, right?
Yep.
So there's a load of literature out there on functional breathing, on tapping into the parasympathetic, tapping into the sympathetic, understanding how you can increase oxygen into the tissues, the Bohr effect. You know, we just don't give it the attention that it needs and deserves. Maybe because it's a unconscious, subconscious, involuntary action that we do 25,000 times a day, and people just think that we do it correctly. But you know, like we discussed, you breathe into the lungs, gets transported through alveoli, it binds to hemoglobin. From that, gets transported around the body and then makes its way into the working tissue. You know, there's a couple of steps there that actually happen. You don't just breathe in and oxygen just does its thing. You know, there's a lot more to it.
It's quite amazing when you break it down like that. Eh?
Oh, mate, you know, it's the same as nutrition, right? You know, again, we mentioned this earlier. I'm sure you could survive, and I'm not a nutritionist, so I'll put my hand up. I'm sure you could survive on 3 slices of pizza and 3 donuts every day, but it's not going to be very optimal for your health, mental and physical. Exact same as breathing. You can survive by breathing in a suboptimal, dysfunctional, shitty way, but it's not going to optimize cognitive performance, your physical performance, mental health, physical health. So what are the things, for no better word, the tools, techniques that we can utilize to become more optimal humans? Breathing in a better way, eating in a better way, living in a better way.
Yeah.
Do you think that, you know, a part of exercise isn't just the physical, but you're getting out there and you're actually breathing better when you're going for a run or whatever exercise you're doing? You're not really thinking about, okay, my breathing's actually going to help me here. But it's just happening automatically because you're breathing so intensely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, man. You know, again, we often give so much attention to muscular systems, skeletal system, the cardiovascular system, 3 of our 12 internal systems, but we often neglect respiration, breathing, and your central nervous system, which helps regulate your manage your levels of stress and levels of calmness. So what are the ways that you can use those other 2 systems to optimize how you are as a human? You know, if you're focusing in the gym, in the studio, whatever it may be, on your muscular system, your skeletal system to try and develop as a human, why not also look into your breathing, respiration system? You know, as a runner, you know, both of us, we often see people running and breathing. You know, you're not getting the oxygen deep into the lungs where we have the highest concentration of alveoli. So often oxygen will get stuck in dead space and you breathe a lot of that oxygen right back out. So this is why breathing deep is so optimal as well, to get oxygen through the alveoli and into the hemoglobin, binding to hemoglobin, then into the working tissues. So when I run, I'm always breathing deep, using the nose and just trying to slow the breath down as well.
And sort of consciously thinking about breathing deep, lower down rather than up high in the chest.
Correct. No, that example there was bang on. So utilizing diaphragm, the big breathing muscle will press downwards. The ribs move out laterally, and then the lungs will inflate. But we often go, you know, and if you're running long distances, if you're breathing in that way, that suboptimal way, the chances of you fatiguing faster are a lot greater. And obviously, if you fatigue, you're not performing, and you're just going to bonk.
I know with my running, I've sort of been playing with some different patterns, and I think we were talking about this last time you were in the shop. What am I doing now? It's like 2 breaths in, 1 breath out, sort of thing, like 2 shorter breaths, 1 out, and then like 1. So 2 out, 1 out, 2 out, 1 out. That's just what I'm doing. I don't know why. It just feels good, and it's a bit of a pattern I've developed. Do you see any benefits or any negatives in that?
Yeah, I also love that you're just exploring and you're experimenting. I think this is, you know, it's what we're designed to do as humans, is play.
That's
right?
part of that awareness too, isn't it? Like
Massively,
being
mate.
aware of your breath and what you're trying to do.
Double inhale with a longer, slower exhale is actually called a physiological sigh. So, you know, and through breathing in that way, it can help burst open the collapsed alveoli, which can happen through stress. By bursting the collapsed alveoli, the small air sacs or air pockets where gas exchange takes place, that'll help bring higher volumes of carbon dioxide out of the bloodstream. And then long exhale gets rid of that CO2. So through metabolic stress, as you're running, more CO2 is being produced in the body. And then if you have collapsed alveoli, it's hard to get rid of that CO2. So the double inhale bursts open the alveoli, and in the exhale just gets rid of the CO2 out of the lungs. So it's actually a very useful, productive technique.
So you're going to pump a heap of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, are you?
Yeah, mate.
He's
So
like
Yeah,
cows.
climate change,
It's as bad as the cows.
just don't tell fucking Greta.
mate. You need to sell a D-Max and buy a Tesla right now if you're going to run around breathing like that, getting
Sorry,
more
mate,
carbon
sorry, mate.
dioxide out.
But I mean, that's only one of the cycles, and the next one's just a regular one.
Right,
It's good though. It's, quite a few people have asked me about that as well. That they've found that rhythm of breath seems to work, which is quite an interesting one where people don't know what it's actually doing into their physiology, but there's actually a lot of benefit. So people fall into doing that naturally, as you have been, mate, and there's a lot of science to it. So if it works and it feels good, continue it.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Good to know that I'm not just.
Well, it's good to play around with it. That's a good.
try and
awareness.
do
I was
things.
thinking because I do sort of 3 steps in, like when I'm running, like
Similar sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
yeah, it is sort of similar.
I mean, I try to use my nose, 80 to 90% of my runs are all nasal. I ran Sydney half marathon a few months ago with my mouth taped, just to try
Oh
and
wow.
prove and I guess support people to let them know that you can run to a decent ability fairly quick, for example, just by nasal breathing. I always use my nose to breathe anyway, but for the purpose of a bit of a PR stunt, just big bit of tape over my mouth so people would chat about it and ask questions about it. But like anything, Rome wasn't built in a day. You have to practice breathing and performing in that place, that state. I started to run only nasal breathing back in 2019, 2020, early probably around COVID actually, if I'm being honest, and it's taken me a while to be able to run at a decent pace, all nasal breathing. I ran that half marathon in like a 1 hour 30, for example, or 1 hour 32, just nasal breathing in and out through the nose, no food, no hydration, no water, just. And a couple of very funny looks as well by people.
No doubt. I'm glad you didn't try that here today, Rory, on the North Midnight Butcher Shop. It wouldn't have the same effect here on the podcast if you did.
We wouldn't get very far, would we?
As a PR stunt.
yeah.
Imagine us asking you questions. Okay. Rory's nodding back at the moment.
I can speak up my nose.
Well, that's
I found. Sorry, man.
go. Oh, I was just going to say that's a bit of an extreme thing to do as a in a marathon, but like it seems like there's a few people out there doing some extreme things, using breath work to enhance their performance to be able to do those things. So like what's, and I mean, for all the mums and dads and kids, don't try this at home, but what are some of the extreme things that people have managed to achieve in the world through utilising some of these breathwork techniques?
Well, the question can be answered in a few ways. I think from mental to physical. I know some people, including myself, who have had out of body experiences just through breathing.
Yeah.
Wow. If I do an hour deep breathwork session, I can see myself looking down at myself.
Amazing.
I don't say that kind of thing lightly, and that is the complete and honest truth. It's happened a couple of times. I'm not saying it happens every single time, but it's happened a couple of times. I almost see a vision of myself, and I'm speaking to myself, which is pretty incredible, right? That you can just do that simply through breathing. So that's one aspect, I guess, of mental, which is pretty amazing. Physical, people like Wim Hof have done some amazing feats and Guinness World Records and all the rest of it. Climbing mountains, I think Kilimanjaro in just
2 days or something. They climbed up in 28 hours or something.
Without a shirt.
Mate, something, yeah. And I've actually climbed Kilimanjaro, and I was not just wearing shorts. I got to the top, and I was absolutely cooked. And this is back in maybe 2017, so prior to having any knowledge of the breath or breath work. But I got to the top, could hardly speak. Showing how little oxygen I had in my body and brain. My altitude sickness was severe. I was wearing jackets, all the rest of it. So having knowledge that Wim has done that in 2 days, just wearing shorts.
Yeah, with a whole team of people.
Mate.
Like a whole bunch of them did it using his breathing method.
He's done multiple things like that. Swimming in ice water, and all the rest of it. So the power. He got injected with E. coli as well.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask you about that
he
because
had
you did a test.
Test, yeah. Most individuals would be ill, and so he did the test on himself. Then had a group. I can't remember the sample size, but participants also did it.
There's about 12 of them, I think. I was
12
watching
of them,
last night.
and with his breathing techniques, similar to what we did earlier, gents, it released cytokine IL-10s, which is an immune boosting defense cytokine, and that made them fight off that E. coli, which is pretty incredible. So the benefit that breathwork can create is pretty endless.
Wow.
So they were talking about increasing the adrenaline.
Yeah.
And the doctor on there was saying that you can't do that without sort of an external sort of a situation, like you
Like
go
an
out, you're going
adrenaline
to get
injection.
yeah, or you go out and you get robbed at gunpoint or something,
Or a bear attack.
or a bear attack. You got that instant adrenaline increase, and he's just watching these guys do it through their breathing.
Wow.
Yeah, which is what I find amazing. Is the classic science, right? Science is evolving every day, every week, every month, every year, and what we know now will be very different to what we know in a year.
Yeah.
And especially and specifically around breathing and breath work, because of the interest, there's a lot more literature coming out. And people like Wim who have made it very mainstream and very sexy. That was a Matthias Cox, I think it was, that paper, 2014 paper with the cytokine IL-10 improving immune system, which is incredible, right? If we have more of these papers coming out, even understanding what parts of the brain is being activated and deactivated, because when we do that technique, which we did earlier, I'd love to go into an MRI, scan my brain, understand where is active prior to doing it, do the breathing techniques, go back into the functional MRI, understand what parts of my brain is deactivated, and these kind of things will happen. It just takes time and money and all the rest of it. Hoops to jump through.
Could tee something like that up, couldn't you?
I am, yeah. I work with a medical clinic in Rosebery in Sydney, and we are making these sort of things happen, but it takes time.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing to see what it's actually doing.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could do the breath work within the MRI machine as well. You wouldn't be able to do it?
No, I've asked about that as well. You can't. I can't have headphones or can't have music, and I can't do the breathwork in the MRI. So I've got to try and go in at rest, at baseline, call it, get a scan of my brain, then come out, do 30 minutes of breath work, very similar to what we did there, and then go back in and see the changes. Then I work with the neuroscientists to compare my brain scans and understand what the differences are between the two.
Are you finding that the neuroscientists are open to this? It seems like science is pretty quick to say, something can't happen. Yet if you look at the science 100 years ago, and if you could grab a scientist from 100 years ago and bring them forward to today and say, hey, check all this stuff out we've worked out, they'd be like, what? Wow, I didn't think that could happen. Like, why is it that science is so quick to just say things to be dismissive, not just say, that's incredible, we don't understand yet how that's happening?
Well, a lot of doctors are stuck in their own way, right?
Yeah.
And they think they are top of the food chain, for no better word or term. We used to as a society put, doctors, lawyers, as gospel. But now the world has changed so much where, they don't know everything. And I work with a lot of doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, neurosurgeons, and they refer their patients to me to do some breath work at various clinics. So the doctors that I work with are very open to it,
Yeah.
and they practice, and I've done sessions with them, and they see the value and the benefit in the science, the objective measurements, but also subjective. How do you feel before? I felt 4 out of 10. How do you feel after? Felt 8 out of 10. Cool. You felt better, therefore let's do more. So yes, the scientists and the neurosurgeons that I work with are pretty open to it and are keen to do more and learn more. But like any industry or any space, you've always got to have people who don't agree with it, right?
Oh, and there's a bunch of people who want things to stay the same.
Yeah.
And
money.
Human nature, yeah. There's cash. Yeah. But yeah, there's human nature in a lot of cases is, I'm comfortable where we're at now. I don't want things to change.
Yeah, don't disturb anything.
Yeah, that's right.
But I like to disturb.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it. I want to challenge the norm, and I want to try and see if things can be done differently. or better, because often what we've always done is not going to get us to where we want to go.
Yeah,
You know, so let's see what we can do to challenge the current.
Matey, have you got some examples of maybe people you've worked with, or first-hand knowledge of people with a lot of these mental health issues? You know, we hear it over and over and over again. Mental health plague. You know, it's a plague at the moment. It's a growing space. You know, and I heard someone say the other day, if all this medication and all these antidepressants were the answer to depression, why does depression continue to increase?
Yeah, it's
You know,
bullshit.
So, look, have you got examples of maybe where the breath work has turned people around? Other than obviously your own story.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
I can only talk about myself in this instinct where I was on antidepressants and then I got into breathwork the way I got into it, and I stopped taking antidepressants. You know, I work with many patients at medical clinics where from everything from anxiety, depression, suicidal, anorexia, bulimia, the list goes on, and we'll do breathwork sessions, and often they'll cry at the end, and the words that they say and the way that they feel, they say things like, I haven't felt my body in over 5 years, or I haven't felt that joyful in over 5 years. So I can only do what I do with them in the short period. I can't hold their hand for months after, and I have a short period to try and add value into their lives. I do the best job that I can, and it's it's up to them to continue breathwork. But it can be very life-changing, yeah.
Have you have you got anyone who you're now teaching, like as a teacher? I solo.
I'm a one-man band, and I like it that way. Often people think that you have to bring more people on to scale a business. I like freedom, from a personal point of view. Freedom,
it's nice.
Freedom is a top value of mine.
Yeah.
I love to be able to do things like this with you guys, and if I wanted to go to Bali tomorrow, I could. So no, I don't teach or train anyone yet. Most of my work is at the medical clinic in Rosebery, corporates, and then with athletes. So yeah, I try to be in as many places as I can, but without taking too much on.
Yeah.
Mate, what about this this altered state of consciousness? I wanted to bring that up. Like, I know through certain meditations and yogas, like the Kundalini yoga, they can get to those states that what you spoke about, where you were sort of out of body. Some people say it's like a DMT trip, release of DMT in the brain. So, what you've had experience with that. Have you heard any other people have similar experiences with this sort of?
Yeah, massively, and I think it's an interesting one with the DMT release, where I haven't read any literature, and I think it's very hard to prove in science if it's releasing DMT. But what I am aware of is if an individual has smoked DMT or taken DMT, then done the breath work, another time, not the same time, but maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, and they've said the experience is the same. Therefore, it's understanding that it's quite a similar DMT release, right? I haven't done DMT, so I don't know how that would feel. Stanislav Grof created holotropic breathwork back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, I think it was, trying to understand how to create altered states of consciousness without taking things like LSD. He's a psychiatrist, and he was experimenting with LSD with his patients. And then when LSD trials got removed through the US government, he then started using breathwork to try and create these altered states just through breathing. So there's a lot of research into it now in holotropic breathwork, from 1 hour practices to 3 hour long practices to get you to a certain place. It's a pretty fascinating way of using the breath. I haven't coached or guided or facilitated many sessions like that. Often with breathwork, I try to make it as accessible as I can for as many people. Those types of sessions are pretty deep, and there's not many individuals who'd want to go that deep, if that makes sense.
I'd love to give it a go, because I don't drink. I haven't had a drink or a drug in coming close to 15 years now, and
awesome.
I've been interested in listening to a lot of people talk about mushrooms and DMT and getting this out of body experience for a close, to more of a spiritual connection and whatnot, and so I've wanted to try something, but I gave the yoga a go, the Kundalini yoga, but it was just in a class with regular class. I don't think it was meant to go that deep, so I'd definitely love to give it a go and
Well, from a practicing point of view, so would I. So I'll do a bit of research, and if I can find someone who I like and trust within Sydney or even New South Wales, and I'll let you know, and we'll try and check it out.
Yeah, man, definitely.
There's not many that I know of, but I'll do some research.
If we've got to go to Bali to do it, we've got to go to Bali to do it.
We're going.
It's on your expense.
Yeah, we'll just have to have a look at the North Mead Midnight Butcher Shop budget.
Yeah. We'll work it out.
Yeah.
It's a business expense, mate. It's fine.
That's the sort of stuff we need to be able to write off on tax. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, there's a big push in society at the moment to attain a better spiritual connection. And I think certainly from my perspective, spirituality, I look at it totally differently now to what I used to traditionally think of spirituality and spiritual people, and relate that to religion and relate that to the church. And there's a squillion different pages out there so there is a large community of people out there trying to attain some sort of spirituality that doesn't involve religion and doesn't involve the church. So
I also think being spiritual is part of one of the pillars of health. Having a growth mindset. Having a wider vision of life. And of self. And I'm not saying you have to believe or think of a higher purpose. Whether that's a god or whatever you want to call it. I don't personally believe in that, but I'm definitely spiritual. Dave, you and I have spoken this in the past as well in the studio. Understanding that I'm here for a reason. What am I doing with my time on this earth? Just having a wider view on what life is, I think. And I also think, again, to go back on your point, I think the world is changing where we are wanting to look at more holistic views to improve health. Rather than just popping fucking pills and taking medication. What can you do to live a better life? Habit changes, lifestyle changes, and they're pretty fucking simple if I'm honest too. Eating better, sleeping better, using hot and cold therapy, a bit of movement. These things are all fundamentally embedded into human development, right?
Yeah.
But we often lose touch and try and go to the sexiest new techie gadget or whatever it is, or something similar. But it's like, what actually works?
yeah, I agree. I mean, my family have heard me say this 1,000 times, but pretty much pre-1900, none of this stuff existed, and somehow the human species got to this point. So why would we need to take these tablets? Why do we, we're the human body is probably the most complicated but well-built organism that we know of in the known universe. And we want to keep mucking around. Like, it got to this point, and in the last 130 years, or maybe 150 years, we want to keep tinkering with it and putting different things in it and doing all these things because we think we know better.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Yeah, I was just gonna say. I think often as humans we get arrogant and we think we know best.
Definitely.
Why the fuck do we think we?
Yeah, I know it's a bit freaking out there, but so many times I've said to my family, I talk about the forest and hunting, because I always think, so and so's just had a cardiac arrest like halfway through their life. This is so and so's got cancer, and you just go, it's got to be stuff we're doing to ourselves. Like, how do deer in the forest live a full life unless something takes them down or they have an accident? Kangaroos live a full life until they hop out on the road in the middle of the night and get hit by a road train. Like, animals predominantly seem to who are living naturally, live a full life.
But not domesticated animals.
Yeah, not unless they're living with us and we're feeding them
exactly.
all the stuff we eat.
But you think about the life that we live compared to how we used to live, hundreds of years ago. we often, a lot of society will get on the public transport, sit on the bus, get driven into the city, then sit in an office from 9 to 5, give or take, whatever it is, sit in a bus and go home. You think, is that really the life that humans, are meant to live? And this is what I love about, BJJ or martial arts or even hunting. Where it's play, it's fun. It brings us back to what I believe we're meant to do as humans. Like I do so many activities, and I go running in forests, and I feel like a child again. It's like I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what we should do. The aspect of putting on a suit and putting on a persona and shaking someone's hand. I couldn't fucking think of anything worse.
Yeah.
Not that shaking someone's hand's bad, but you know what I mean. It's just a whole story. There's the whole story that we almost have to be a certain person or put on a certain persona and acting a certain way. It's like, let's just do what we enjoy. Go hunting, go fishing, roll around and wrestle. Martial arts. That's what humans are designed to do.
Yeah.
Be connected with what we actually are, not trying to be something we're not, climbing that ladder, impressing other people, coming home and just feeling depressed, thinking, oh, fuck, did I say the right thing to that guy to get that position? Or fuck that shit.
Well, it's even the social media stuff too, right? We've never felt so disconnected, but equally tried to be as connected as we could be, right? And I've got a very love-hate relationship with social media, but I think it's often, can you use it in a positive way or do you consume it in a negative way? And I think, we were speaking earlier about kids, where I never knew what anxiety and depression was until I had it, and it was too late when I was about 21, 22 years old. These days, I'm speaking to teachers at schools, or I'm talking to kids at schools, and 12, 13, 14 years old, and they're anxious or they're depressed. You think, and that's clinical. You think, fuck. But what's changed? We talk about change in society. Phones. When I was growing up, I had a Nokia 3310i, and
Snake.
Snake, and I thought I was the fucking man, and I had Snake, and it was awesome. Now with these iPhones, with iPhones, you can do anything. You can get to anything you want, and kids 10 years old, they have them.
Taking it for granted as well. It's like,
that's not good for you.
Nah, it's wild. When you look at what a lot of us are doing in society today, and you think about evolution, think about all the body parts you wouldn't need if all you needed to do was stare at a screen and flick. Like, you don't need one finger to scroll. You don't need all these other ones that can grab hold of things and actually do things with them.
Well, that's why I'm so passionate about living life by design, not by default. Designing the perfect life for me that suits me as a human, as an individual, as Rory Warnock. I never wanted to just go with the wind. I never wanted to just fall into old patterns or fall into what the rest of society are doing. Because I think, broadly speaking, a lot of people are miserable. And I've been in that miserable place. I had suicidal thoughts, and I don't want to go back there. So, the things that we mentioned earlier, ensuring that my cup is full and filled every week, the saunas, the ice baths, the exercise, the training, I think purpose and passion is a huge one as well. Doing things, doing work that you're fundamentally passionate about, can really cure and solve so much mental health. Like if you're waking up every day and you're actually making positive difference or creating positive change, you're doing pretty well, right?
Yeah. I know. Like, we've spoken about even the days that we do this podcast and how, like, the lead up to it, I'm normally like pretty pumped about it, and then you sit down because you're going to have a good conversation with somebody, an interesting conversation, and then you're almost like jacked afterwards because you're like, that was awesome, thanks for doing that, and then you've got the development of it, like just doing this podcast, and whether there's for all 12 of our listeners out there. You know who you are, Gary, Barry, Joe. No. But it feels like we're doing something positive, which is why we started it, and the feedback's been great. But just having a little bit of a purpose, just
I mean, you hear it,
charges you up.
you hear it. Yeah, and I agree. And you hear people when they have passion projects, right? Whether it's someone making a car or something creative, like a podcast, is creative, and it just changes the norm or the normal cycle of life, right? And I think as humans, as individuals, we need more of that. just do things that excite you, that you wake up and that you dream about, that you think about, that you want to talk to your mates about. That's I think we often get sucked into the 9 to 5. A lot of people, and that's just the life that people live for years. I was out at the weekend, and I overheard someone saying, "Yeah, work's shit, but it pays the bills."
Yeah, that comment, man. Every time I hear that,
and I nearly
comment,
fucking said something to him. I was like, I just in my head, I was thinking, bro, is that really the life that you're living? Like, you're just, and then you're probably, I think it's out somewhere, it's in a restaurant or bar, and now he's probably just going to go out rat arse and just drink himself into oblivion.
Yeah.
It's like, is that really the life that he's living?
They've set up their lives in a way where they're in that trap, and it's hard to get out of it because they've got all these bills, all these things that they've tied to, that they need to have that job to support that life that they're living, but that life that they're living is completely wrong and doing them much worse than what,
But it's a trap, and I completely agree. And I think so the old mentality of the American dream, right? The white picket fence, where you leave school, you get a job, you then get a house and get this outrageous mortgage, you then have kids, you then die. It's like I don't personally, from a personal point of view, I don't have a desire at the moment in my life to buy a house. Again, go back to that freedom. I like, if I were to buy where I rent, it'd be millions. So I'm currently renting something that I can't afford to buy, that I'm enjoying that lifestyle. And I think a lot of people think the thing to do, and I'm 29, so I'm seeing a lot of my friends are doing it now. They think the thing to do is just to buy a house somewhere that they don't even enjoy living because it's so expensive to buy anywhere these days. And then now they have a house and a mortgage, but then they can't go on holiday, they can't eat out, they can't socialize. You think, well, so you own the 4 walls, but you're living this miserable life. I don't know, I think it's.
You think better off to own your life?
Well, personally, everyone's different, right? Everyone's values and priorities are different, but I just think people aren't 100% sure of what they want, and they think the thing to do, especially late 20s, maybe early 30s, is just to buy a house and then they own the house. And people will say to me, "I just bought a house." Couldn't give a fuck. Like, if can you live a life that makes you happy? If that makes you happy, incredible. Good on you. Well done. But if you're not able to go and socialize, not able to go get some food with a friend because you have no money because you've got to pay this mortgage, can't go on holiday for 5 years, you think, well, is it worth that?
You got to work overtime.
Like, is it? Yeah, but then you're working. Yeah, exactly. Then you're working 7 a.m. until 10 at night.
Yeah.
So
really
you have no relationship with your partner, no relationship with your family.
I mean, Rory, like, I don't think like what you're proposing is there's every facet in between kind of thing. Like there's one extreme to the other, and it's such a monumental. Because I've spent a fair bit of time thinking about this, and there's we've been conditioned, and the whole system is set up so that you at some stage have to sit within this, right? And even as a renter, it doesn't matter how you structure it, right? You're still sitting in the system. You're just in a different slot because. So you might have more disposable income, so you can spend more money going out on holidays and this and that. But we're all still in the system. We're all still plugged in, and you might be a little bit less plugged in than others. And I'm far, I'm less plugged in than a lot too. But I don't know what the solution is to escape the system because
there's not.
No, breath work.
Yeah, breath work.
Yeah.
Go feel sorry
for 10 minutes, you're out.
Yeah. Just forget about the system.
Yeah.
Well, I think I
but it's such a difficult. It's just such a difficult argument because there'd be a heap of people who would listen to this and think, yeah, how do I get out? I want to live that life too. I want to live a life where I'm not just tied to the mortgage. I only had this discussion with my son there the other day. We only, because of the situation, we only just got started, and then it kind of, the discussion finished. But he was like, "Is this what it's about? Like, is this all it is? You get qualified in your trade, then you sign up to $1 million mortgage in a house out here that's." The house is really lucky to be worth $100,000, right? In real, what you're looking at, it's not $1 million. And then you have kids, and then you bring them up, and is this what it is? And I said, man, that's such a big topic. We need to talk about it later. But
I think it's so far from what it is, and I think I don't know if it's been done in design to pull us further away from what we're supposed to be as humans, and show us our true potential of what we can be with our minds and bodies, and through breathwork and meditation and stuff like that, and connecting on a spiritual level. I think humans have got more power than what we think we have. And
Massively.
Massively, but I also think, again, going back to the values and priorities, if someone really valued and really prioritized wanting to own the four walls and be able to sit with their partner and watch TV every night, all power to them. That's fantastic. Going back to what you mentioned there, I want to travel. I want to explore. I want to learn. I want to see the world. I want to go to all the different continents, the various countries. And I think that's living,
Yeah.
I think sitting on a sofa watching TV every night, personally, this is my personal view, obviously, and owning the four walls, but having this like terrifying mortgage, to me, that's existing. That's not living. And again, going back to what I said about living life by design, I'm furiously aware of this.
Yeah.
And I do all I can to create the next step for me in my life. I plan my 2024. The various races that I want to compete in, the various countries that I want to travel to. I'm almost planning 2025. Because I want to do one race from Uluru to Alice Springs, 500 kilometers. So I need to make sure that I'm training the right way to do that race. So, maybe at some point in my life, I'll think, fuck, Rory, you should buy a house. But for now,
I doubt it.
just enjoy it,
just
mate.
keep winging it.
Yeah. I bet you don't. Not unless you're homeless at 75 or something. But yeah, I think you'll be far richer for it. I suppose
What is rich?
Yeah.
Is rich financial? Is rich experiences?
Definitely not. I think there's plenty of people who are fucking broke, who've got lots of money, who are broke. Like
We're supposed to be
Broke
living, right?
too. You see that. You see.
Broken,
Some
broken.
of the wealthiest people are some of the most miserable people. And this is again going back to connection, right? I don't have much money, but I feel like I'm very happy with the life that I live,
Yeah.
and it's and I don't need much to be happy.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do a bit of traveling. I want my trainer so I can go running, and I want to be able to have good conversations with like-minded, fun, exciting people who are interesting and interested.
Yeah.
That's all I need to be happy. But again, billion-dollar advertising, billion-dollar marketing industries say that you need this, you need that, you need the next new car, and I'm definitely not the perfect human, far from it. But it's just trying to be so hyper aware of the life that you want to live.
Yeah. Well, I think the more of us who can do that, the ripple effect that we talk about all the time, throwing the rock in the pond, the more people who are doing that, it's just going to spread more positivity and love out there,
I feel like it's getting more and more. The more people I talk to, they're in a similar sort of headspace, especially after the whole COVID thing. I think people had a bit of a slap in the face and big realization of, what am I doing with my life?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, hearing about everybody suffering through the COVID and, everything going now. You're watching people dropping at the age of bloody 40 from cardiac arrest and whatnot.
Yeah.
And thinking,
Rest in peace, Matt Perry.
yeah.
Oh fuck yeah! Well, yeah. I think you got to take a step back and what are the things that actually matter in life? Your health, your happiness, and love and family. That's kind of it. That's the fundamentals of it.
100%. Because if someone said to you, hey, mate, you got cancer, you're going to die in 2 months, you're not going to give a shit about anyone at work,
No.
any money. You're not going to care about anything.
No, and this is why I feel when I have a family, and I didn't really do this growing up myself, but I think I'm pretty different to a lot of my family. But I'd love to go camping, and do these sort of camping trips and just I was in Namibia a few weeks ago and just seeing family and these incredible excursions. All they had was a 4x4. A tent on the roof, and just drive around the country for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to do that. Just see these amazing landscapes and amazing animals, and it's a simple life, right? But often the more simple life is the better life.
Oh, I know. Like from like bringing my children up, most of their memories are like times when we've just been away and been together. They're not like stuff they've had. They're not, it's not about. Yeah. And it's like, we did a sort of a once in a lifetime family holiday overseas for a few weeks, and for us, it was probably a once in a lifetime at that, with kids who were at that right age to appreciate it. And yeah, they had a great time, but they've also had a mad time when we've been camping and just with our bigger family and spending time doing that, or spending time at the beach, or going fishing. Like if you're fishing with a kid and they get a decent fish on the line, good luck ever making them forget that. They were still talking about that when you're an old man. Going, remember I caught that big fish. I was the only one who caught that fish. But yes, you.
I remember my first fish, my old man.
I know.
Shitty
But
little brim.
I think that's one of the beauties of Australia, and what I love about this country is you don't need much to have a lot of joy. You know, if you got a decent car that you can go into the outback, or you can go on adventures. Excuse me. You know, maybe a fishing rod or a fishing line, whatever it is that you need. You know, and you can make a fire, you cook some food, and you just have some fun with the people that you're around. Right?
Yeah.
You don't need to be in LA or New York or whatever it is. You know, you can have a great time here, and that's what I've noticed over the last 4 years, and what I want to experience a lot more of over the next 4 years is just living with what you have in Australia, because it's an amazing country.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah, well, Kate and I are packing up. We're gonna head off March next year. We're gonna buy a caravan and hit the road and work and travel. Yeah. We can do it. So we're gonna go. We're calling it Outspack Adventures. And
How are we going to do this podcast? We're going to have to do it remotely.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to buy a new laptop so we can. And we'll buy whatever the dish thing is that you need. So we can tune in and we can all keep this thing going.
Yeah.
Well, even going back to what you mentioned about post-COVID, I've got a good friend. He's kind of late 30s. Worked in finance in Sydney, but he took 6 months off, went traveling. He's come back and he's just bought a van, and he's just doing this van up, and then he's just going to be driving around the country for another few months.
Yeah.
I said, you don't want to get back into work? He's like, not really, not in any hurry. I was like, fucking love that.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I can see how just content he is, how relaxed he is, and he's like, this is my life. I just want to live it for a while, and maybe I'll go back into the corporate thing, for no better word, rat race at some point. But for now, I just want to explore. I want to see the country. I want to see the world.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So good.
Yeah, we're certainly looking forward to it.
I'd love to do that with the kids. Just say, hey, that's it. Out of school, we're going to homeschool. 6 months to a year. Let's just hit the road.
Yeah, man.
Fucking
Man, you're the only one in control of it.
I know.
Mate.
Well,
You
there's
and
my
Sash.
wife as well.
Oh yeah.
Well,
it's not just me.
Yeah.
I would do it, mate. Like,
No, but like we had spoken about it, Dave. We've spoken about it before, but now it was just like I think what happened is a couple of people, a friend at one of the kids' friends' fathers passed away just recently. Had a fairly short battle with cancer, really, like on the cancer scale of things, if there is a cancer scale. But it was, found out because Brian, his name, wasn't he? He was like literally, he was running around training the boys for footy and everything only months before. Anyway, so it was quite quick. And I think that was one of the things, and it's kind of like a compounding thing. You know, that happens around you, and you think, bloody hell, and then something else happens, and you think, nah, we've got to, if we can do this, if we can structure this, and we're comfortable with, the amount of money we earn and what's happening at home, and we can, the family are looked after, let's get the hell out of here. Let's go. We'll work and just go and have different experiences and go where the road takes you.
But I love it, man, and that's that is the definition of living life by design, right? Exactly what I mentioned earlier, where and it doesn't come overnight, and it doesn't come with just a conversation. You got to, and you know this better than me, but you got to strategically plan to create it and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
What are the kids doing? How are we financially? The house, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You over months of planning, then you make it happen.
Yeah.
But I just think there's a lot of people in the world who don't want to give it that time.
Yeah.
I'll keep doing the dead end job. I've been miserable in this job for a few months now. Those few months then turn to a few years.
Yeah,
but
and then
it
it's
pays a
I'll
bill,
get
right?
to my long service, so I'll stay in this job that I hate until I've got 10 years up, and then it's and then before you know it, you're looking back and you're going, holy moly, I'm in my 50s or whatever.
it's
and
5 years gone.
5 years goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it when you're 17, but when you're 45, it goes pretty quick. So, yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that live life by design.
Yeah, life by design, not by default.
What about kids, mate? What about breath work and kids? Have you had experience with doing like sessions with?
Yeah, quite a few. Not as many as I would have liked. You know, I'm very passionate about youth development and kids development. You know, I guess I grew up with two little brothers who were born when I was 12 and 13. So I've always found that of interest. I've worked in a few schools, but again, not as many as I'd like to. Again, like we mentioned, kids these days are struggling more and more with mental health, you know, anxiety and depression, and that really is that me? No, it's not. And that really saddens me to know that they're kind of going through that. So like you can only I can only be in one place at one time, right? And I can only do so much. So yeah, it's definitely an area of interest, but I've just not done a huge amount.
I'd love to give it a go with my son. He's turning 7 soon, and he's had a bit of trouble at school and, emotional regulation and stuff like that. I've told you before, I've been taking him for runs in the mornings before school. Not every day, but we've done maybe 5 runs now. And we do about 400 metres to the park, push-ups, sit-ups, another run around the park 3 times with sprints and stuff like that. And during the runs, we talk, and he's like, oh, I don't want to do it. The first couple of times, like, whinging, I'm like, mate, you gotta beat that mind of yours, and your head's telling you can't do it, but you can do it. I want to hear you say you can do it, and net, like each time he come, I heard him the other day, he was going, I can do it, I can. I'm like, what are you saying? He's like, I can do it, I can do it. I was like, good on you,
I love
mate.
that, man. That's awesome.
It was awesome. I was so proud of him. I got a bit teary.
Oh, yeah.
And then get back, and I'm just watching his technique improve with the push-ups and the box jumps, and like, mate, this is what it's about, not fucking waking up, sitting in front of the TV, watching God knows what, then going to school and getting into trouble, because we got a bit of feedback about him and, medication and shit like that. I want to put him on. I'm like, mate, I haven't given it 100% in the home with him.
Yeah.
As a father, I haven't given it my all. Once I give it my all and it's still going on, then maybe we'll discuss some other things. But until then, as a family, we haven't done everything we possibly can within the home to try and help him, So I do want to try this breath work with him. And
yeah, well, we could definitely chat about it after this, and I really take my hat off to you for having that vision, and saying, I haven't done everything I can do, and now I'm going to do everything I can do, right? And to take him out and to try and train his mindset at a young age, that's awesome. I never knew anything about mindset training or how to think or how to positively think until I was early 20s. So you teaching a 7-year-old is awesome, mate. So that's I love to hear that.
Yeah, imagine the compounding interest on that.
Oh, mate.
Like if you can keep going with that type of mindset.
because there's so much negativity.
Yeah, well, you're what we talked about before. Like you're starting his day. If you do that, you're starting his day with what we're meant to be doing physically, not what we've ended up doing, which is wake up, have breakfast cereal, sit on the couch, then go, because your breakfast's the most important meal of the day and it's full of sugar, and then sit in the car, then sit in the school bus, then sit in the classroom, then sit,
deal with other kids maybe getting picked on or whatever. Whereas you start the day like that, you're like fucking pumped. Fuck
And
you,
I'm
fucking.
when you train first thing in the morning, whether it's a run, whether it's strength training, whatever it may be, like how good do you feel?
Oh, the day, it's got to be, whatever happens in the day, it's got to be so bad to turn your day around because you're so freaking ready for it.
I always think you're trying to do the hardest thing first, or just leaning into discomfort, leaning into a bit of challenge, and then everything else after that feels pretty easy.
Yeah.
Or feels a lot more comfortable, and you feel a lot more confident doing it.
Yeah.
So the hardest thing for me is getting up in the morning in the cold and going for a run. I would do everything I can in my power not to put my fucking trainers on.
Yeah.
Isn't that why you moved to Australia?
Mate, literally.
Imagine being in Scotland trying to do this.
Mate, like I left the UK because of weather.
Wow.
But the hardest part, as I think the three of us know, put the trainers on. As soon as the trainers on, walk out the door, move your right foot in front of your left, and then do it. And like I'm kicking and screaming. There's a mental battle internally. And as soon as I finish a half-hour run, 45-minute run, 60-minute run, whatever it is, like I think I could run through a wall.
Yeah.
I feel invincible.
Yeah.
But it's almost I beat my mind. I love that achievement factor of I didn't want to do it, I did it, now I feel great. Now I'm ready for the day. Sun's coming up, run with my dog, you're like, why did I not want to do this? But then the worst thing is, the amount I've done this now hundreds of times. but I still kick and scream.
Yeah.
I think, come on, Rory, like, are we still doing this?
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro. Like, get on with it.
That's like there's a third person in there. There's you and then the voice in your head. And then you've got this other person going, you guys have this problem every
It's
day.
the referee. It's the ref.
Yeah, just fight. Just
yeah,
fight.
Yeah. I'm just going to sit back and watch. It's going to go on for the next 10 minutes. Then you'll start getting on and then we'll get it done.
Yeah, man. It's interesting.
Oh man, it's great. Yeah, so doing it with my son, man, like just teaching him those things that I didn't have that, growing up. I just had to learn my own way through life. My dad never really taught me many things like that, and I'm only learning it now.
But
so
this
to be
is the
able to
one
pass that
benefit
on.
of the internet and social media, right? Because it's a love-hate relationship. Because now, if you even have a thought, you can start diving in, having a look things up, and then there's so much content relating to that, positive stuff or whatever. So, your mum and dad didn't have access to that unless they made the substantial investment when the Encyclopedia Britannica salesman came around, and he would have been followed by the Kirby vacuum cleaner salesman. But that was your information source. You either went to the library, or you had the Encyclopedia Britannica and their delusional version of the truth or hidden history. You know what I mean?
They
Like
just did the
now, you
best
can
that
just
they
jump
could.
on. You can just go, oh, what can I do for kids' exercise? Like literally in
fingertips.
15 seconds, you could have tomorrow's routine sorted out to go and do something with Raph. Like that's the upside of all this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there definitely are some benefits, but like we mentioned, using it to your advantage, not to your detriment.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of discipline and willpower.
Oh yeah.
With Instagram, for example, I try to make sure that I create, not consume. So to put out information that will add value to people's lives rather than consume shite.
Yeah.
And I feel there's a big difference between the two. And again, I'm not by far the perfect human, and I fall into a trap of just consuming funny videos. But then one funny video for 1 minute turns to 30 minutes later. You think I've done fuck all with my afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Yeah, that's right. There's too many funny cat videos to watch.
Then you get angry at yourself and you feel the guilt and the shame. And you're like, fuck, what have I done?
Yeah, create. No, you got a lot of good. So have you got a quote you want to give us? You've given us a few. You've given us create, not consume. You've given us live life by design, not default.
The stackable habits.
Yeah, habit
what was
stacking is a good
Yeah,
one.
habit stacking.
Something along the lines of
Inspirational quote.
living and not existing.
Yeah.
I don't want to merely exist. I want to live a life. Live as if you're gonna learn forever. No, that's not it. What is it again?
Sounds good though.
No, it's live as if you're gonna die tomorrow. Learn as if you're gonna live forever.
Beautiful.
Gandhi.
I like that one.
There you go.
Gandhi.
That's an inspirational quote for the day.
We might wrap it up on that. That's a great way to end the.
It is.
The
It is
session.
great.
How can people contact you? What's the best way for people to get hold of you?
No, I really appreciate your time, guys. Best place to contact me would be my website, rorywarnock.com. My Instagram is rorywarnock_. And if you go to the website, you can sign up to the newsletter. I send out weekly newsletters. Hopefully, no shite. Just some information around when you can practice breathwork with me, either in person or online, and some information around science and what's happening in the world.
Beautiful, mate.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory, mate. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it was,
gents.
it was everything I had expected, mate, and more. It was great. We'll tag all of those links in the description of the show. And thanks for chopping it up with us on the North Mead Midnight Butcher Shop.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. That was great.
Nice work.
Don't go anywhere. We're doing a photo right now.
Photo.